Like cooking, everything has a recipe.
A set of instructions to follow in order to gain a certain result.
Music is no different.
Be it ingredients for a dish, a set list for an amazing show,
Or a release strategy for a successful launch.
these are all recipes.
Hi, we're your hosts, Sean.
And I'm Brandon.
Come and join us in our kitchen as we go through the Music Makers Cookbook.
Let's get cooking.
Welcome to the Music Makers Cookbook, the podcast where we help independent artists cook up recipes for success in the music industry. And if you are an audio listener, it should sound about the same. But if you happen to watch us on YouTube or see any of our shorts on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube itself, then you're going to see that we have a little bit of a different setup right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm super excited about it, honestly.
Me too. And it's a big change because we just finished our first season in episode 25, and we're starting off season 2 of this podcast. We've got a lot of big changes coming. If you want to know what we've got lined up, you should check out episode 25 and listen to that. And especially if this is the first episode I'm listening to, thank you for coming in and listening to us and checking us out. If you are returning and listening to again, leave a comment. Let us know what episode so far has been your favorite. Because, we'd love to hear it and do more of that.
Yes, absolutely.
But
absolutely.
Might be a little bit of growing pains as we kind of get used to this, because now we got a countertop. We've got plenty of fancy lights around here because Brandon is very into lights right now, and I'm very grateful for
We're
it.
binging lights right now, or at least I am. So I don't know about you, but I usually obsess over something throughout the week, and last week into this week has been lighting. So it's been my little thing. So I've been doing a lot of research on it, which is not perfect yet because we still have to purchase like some better lights, but we're kind of figuring out the set and what we want to do and where we want to take this, and what better way to do it than on episode 26, the one right after the review. Yeah. Right. So why not? So we're going to try this for the next however many episodes and see if it sticks.
I'm the same way. When I really get into something, I just focus and put on the blinders. And as you've been doing with that with lights, I've been doing that with social media and making content recently and trying to make it as efficient as possible. I've been using tools like Descript is how I edit the podcast.
Yeah.
It makes it real easy to get rid of all the, you can set like no gaps in between words longer than 2 seconds, and then we'll cut everything down to 2 seconds or less. So you can like really make video wide, it cuts and edits real quickly. And then when I make the shorts, I use a software called Video AI, which you can input custom templates and overlays and things like that, and it'll automatically transcribe it. You can get different fonts, colors, all that, and it just takes a long form video. I upload the full podcast, and it spits out like 40 to 50 potential clips that I can
adjust. Fantastic.
Yeah, it would be a multi-hour process of going through the whole episode and cutting things out and lining it up and then putting, transcribing it and all that into like a couple of minutes.
Yeah, that's an insane time saver. Definitely worth it.
Yeah.
Definitely worth it.
Yeah, so I've been doing a lot of things like that. And I've been using actually AI as a whole more with ChatGPT. I've been using that to kind of help come up with content creation strategies and a content calendar, which we talked about that a little bit in our episode on, I think it was episode 6, about software that every music maker should know.
Yep, we have talked about it. Yep.
Yeah, but we're gonna do one probably in a couple episodes.
Yeah,
more
I would
about
imagine
AI tools you can use, because I'm understanding it more. You're understanding it more.
Definitely, and there's a lot more out there. I feel like there's a new tool every day.
So crazy.
Whether it's real AI or not, AI has become like a really big marketing thing. We'll kind of talk about that, like kind of like maybe how to decipher what's AI, what's true AI, what's not, but it seems like there's a new tool every day. And if it's saving you this much time, Sean, like doing the videos like this, then I would imagine it's going to save you a lot of time when you go to make content for yourself, or, anything else that you kind of want to dive into and use AI to make your life more efficient. So that's definitely a good topic to come up soon, I think.
Just to put it into context, I'm currently in the middle of moving studio locations. You might see a short on Instagram or whatever talking about how everything's changing on my end. And I am moving studio locations, but I'm maintaining all my session work. So I'm still doing mixing and mastering, a little bit of recording, and I'm making 2 shorts a day on multiple platforms. I post image a day for Instagram, and editing the full podcast episode that goes out every Tuesday. So
are you saying that you've been busy?
I've been busy, but I'm saying these tools allow you to get so much done quickly.
Yeah.
In fact, I've got enough short form video that if I didn't make any more from the next couple episodes and I still posted 2 a day, I would have enough videos for the next 2 weeks.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. The best part about AI too is like, I know that's not our topic today, but since
It's not. But
we're on the topic of it,
this is the appetizer.
Yeah,
it's like, hey, welcome to the new episode.
Exactly. We have a nice plate
right.
right here for you. That's imaginary. So just picture whatever food you want there.
Plate. We should put a plate. God damn it.
We should have put a plate on there. We should put our favorite food on there every week so I can just stare at it while we record.
Just like watch us drool as the
yeah, exactly. It's a little treat for the end, once we get through the episode. But the best part about AI though is like you might be thinking like, well, why not just hire somebody? Well, that's the thing though, is like this makes this the barrier to AI is way lower than it would be to actually hire somebody. So you can implement this in your life almost like immediately, which is fantastic. That's like one of the best parts about AI. But we'll get, like I said, we'll get to that AI episode, but the strengths of AI are still being developed, it's still coming into its own. So it can't do everything a person can do, and it might not ever be able to, which is great news for people. Right. But some things it might take over. So,
well, here's the beautiful thing. Like eventually I am going to want to move off of AI and hire somebody just because I'm able to be more specific with what I want from it. The AI isn't formulated enough. There's nothing in that, at least in video AI, saying like, oh, make content like this. You can't tell them these are the kind of clips that work well with our audience. These are the kinds of ways we want it to be edited. There's no way to put in images or other clips overlaying or cutting up in between phrases. That doesn't exist yet with the AI, at least on this program. So eventually, it's better to pay somebody, but for someone who's doing it on a budget, like a lot of these AI things to get people in have programs like, get 75 free minutes a month.
Yep.
Or, ChatGPT is just completely free if you wanted to use the 3.5 version. So to be able to make good enough copy, good enough video, good enough shorts, good enough content to really get the ball rolling, get it consistently and be able to put it out.
Yeah.
Is just so great until it builds up enough steam for you to then, okay, I'm going to hire somebody to maybe make it a little more specific, give me a little more control, have a little bit of a better end of product. So we're going to dive into.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'm excited for that episode already.
That's my AI rant. You can go back into lights because these lights are gorgeous.
Man, the lighting, man. We're going to get a couple of really cool pieces of lighting kits or pieces of lighting here soon and hopefully be able to illuminate this even more.
Brandon, don't go towards the light.
Oh, baby.
He's going towards it.
I've already been there and I've seen it. It's amazing. It's great. So yeah, we're excited about that. Hopefully that'll be in the coming episodes. That would be great. And honestly, just kind of solidify how we make this podcast look on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you for watching.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
If you're not, you've probably been a little confused over the past couple minutes. Thank you for listening to us without having a visual.
Exactly. Maybe it's a reason for you to go back, watch a video, compare it to now, and then you'll be in on the end.
Yeah, and subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on TikTok and Instagram so that you can see the shorts as well.
Excellent call to action.
Yeah, do it. Help us help you.
Yes.
But moving on, we're going to kind of continue a little bit of what we did on episode 24 today. Episode 24, we talked about some potential things, skills that are good to know, both on the technical aspect of it, being maintenance skills as well as performance skills that, just any sort of music maker, any sort of musician, they can be helpful to have in your tool belt, in your arsenal, to just kind of get further along and make it easier being a musician. Just useful things to know.
Yeah.
And we're kind of continuing that today and moving away from the musicianal aspect of it and going more into relational and financial aspects of it. Things that would be good to know relationally so that ways to interact with people or just skills to have to help you out in certain situations. And also financially, like business information, like how to run your band, your music as a business, and also some basic money management skills. Nothing too in depth, nothing like
nothing
no
crazy
tax advice or anything.
Yeah, definitely not.
Be aware of.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm excited about this episode. Like I was the last episode because like these are really like practical applications that you can use almost immediately, and anybody can do this, which is awesome. So the barrier to entry to this is really low too. One thing I want to mention is how good we were with ending a season on a cliffhanger, right? Because we already did part 1 and episode 24. Then we had our 25th episode, which was our review that transitioned us to a new season. And now for the first episode of the second season, we're doing the part 2. So we're picking right back up where we left off. We didn't plan it like that, but we're just that good. So
everything changes, but everything stays.
That's right.
That is such a, I'm not going to go on that tangent. Anyway, to kind of lead into some kind of relational things, some tips and tricks, some skills that are good to know. I'm going to start off by saying, Brandon, you did a phenomenal job with these lights.
Sean.
Like just straight up.
Shut the fuck up. No.
Okay, so there you see an example of what to do and what not to
Yes.
do. And what I did was what not to do. What he did is what you're supposed to
Exactly.
do. If
That's
you
how you
already
treat
have
people.
an established relationship.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate you. Your kind words right there.
Yeah, shut the fuck up. But yeah, so basically, just kind of a good way to start as a skill is to know how to compliment people
Mhm.
without sounding like a suck up, without sounding like a
Yeah.
kiss ass,
Yeah.
not a teacher's pet, whatever like the slang term is of being too forthright with, oh, I'm complimenting you because it's backhanded. You want to be genuine in your compliment.
Yeah.
It's really important to believe what you're saying.
Mhm.
And like, I fucking love these.
Thanks, man.
This is the best it's ever looked. Once again, go check us out on YouTube if you're not watching us on there. But it's a genuine compliment.
Mhm.
And there's always something you can genuinely compliment with somebody.
Absolutely.
And compliments, when they're heartfelt, they go a long way at building a better relationship with somebody and a better just dichotomy throughout the rest of the evening.
Absolutely. I mean, compliments are really important because like it helps people recognize their worth and feel appreciated at the same time. But you know, compliments, they can be easily taken into a almost manipulative way sometimes too, right? Like Sean said, there has to be like a value of authenticity to it. And we're not going to tell you how to correctly compliment somebody. Like that's not really our lane. We're not really into psychology like that.
Yeah.
But
I was like, look them in the eye for exactly 2 seconds and then shake their hand and say like, that is a fantastic
That's
thing
right.
that you just did.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
Yeah, we're not here to do that, right? And so we're gonna point you somewhere to maybe learn about this a little bit more. And that place is the book How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. The title sounds shitty. Like it's a shitty title, but it's actually a phenomenal book.
Mhm.
It's probably a book that you should read every year just to brush up on your people skills and your relational skills. Because like I said, this is very practical to how you conduct yourself as a business and as a musician. What we do is very community based, and you need to know how to interact with that community properly. So definitely go check out that book. That book is super, super, super helpful. If you don't have maybe some of these skills, or if you need to brush up on certain parts of the skills that you've already obtained.
I mean, even if you do have these sort of skills, it's really good to kind of know the reasons behind it and kind of be like, oh yeah, no, I'm doing this for the right reasons. Or, oh, maybe I was a little manipulative with that. So I should probably work on focusing on that a little bit. But in addition to that, having that background knowledge of just how to communicate with people that this book just does and be authentic and be a big part of it is be truthful when you make compliments and you are forthright with saying these things to help people give you what you want. You can then kind of see it in other people when they approach you. You can be like, oh, wait, that probably wasn't very genuine.
Yep.
And help you kind of navigate
Yeah.
what can be kind of a rocky terrain
Yeah.
every now and then.
Because you can smell the bullshit. Right.
That is a great thing about people. And that's why it's really dangerous to be a kiss ass, to be a suck up, is because humans have a pretty good radar. We know when things aren't genuine,
Yes.
for the most part, unless you're really good at lying. It's like, I don't like the way he says that. Like,
Yeah.
there are things that subconsciously humans can clue in on. So it's really important that you do be honest, be authentic when you do this.
Definitely. It's very helpful to pick your words wisely. And that kind of leads us to our next point too. And this is all kind of encompassing, but how to also give criticism and also take criticism. We'll get to take criticism, but since we're talking about giving a compliment, you also have to do the opposite sometimes. Sometimes you have to give criticism where criticism is due. And then when Sean and I case, we deal with criticism a lot, whether it's we do something on a project that somebody's not really feeling, right? Or we have to tell somebody that this wasn't your best performance. Maybe let's try it again, right?
Yeah.
And there are situational aspects of this that, you know, we could really dive into and get really specific with, but just know that there are different ways to say different things.
Yeah.
And how you approach that sometimes all depends on the person you're working with. Sometimes with people, they prefer you being straight up like, dude, that was a shit take. Let's just do it again.
Hop back in there. I know you can do better than that.
Exactly.
Once again, it's being very forthright. There's a difference between like, man, that was a shit take, let's redo it. And there's a difference between like, man, I know you can do better than that. Let's hop back in there.
Absolutely.
It's both very forthright and blunt, but just the simple wording changes, something you can be aware of.
Yep. And then there's like another aspect of this too, is where you kind of like soften the blow a little bit, where it's like, hey, like this sounded good, but I think let's do another one just to have another one, or let's do another one because I think there was a part in here that maybe could have been a little bit better. So let's just run it again, right?
Have you ever heard of the compliment sandwich technique?
Yes. Yeah, the shit sandwich.
The shit sandwich technique. Yep. This is something that you can implement right away. That's pretty easy to do. That can be very beneficial.
Yep.
Dealing with bandmates, dealing with promoters, dealing with fans, I don't know why you would compliment.
Shit sandwich a fan.
Yeah, shit sandwich. I don't know why you would. It's like, man, thank you for coming out. I love your energy. You know, you kind of like did that. You shouldn't like yell during the middle of my
I
set
don't
or
like the way
whatever.
you stand.
Like,
Other than that, you're great.
And it's like business relationships or anything like where we actually are asked to give authentic criticism, like a fellow artist is saying, hey, can you give me your feedback on the song that I'm working on? That can be really important. And giving good feedback can really bolster the relationship. So what the shit sandwich does is it's give a compliment, give the criticism, then finish with a compliment.
Yeah.
So in the situation earlier, if you're doing it for us, is if someone's giving a vocal take at our studio and it's not the best vocal take, the compliment would be like, hey, you know, I really like the energy in it. You had I really like that breathiness you added at the pre-chorus right before we drummed into it. You know, really focus on the breathiness. Then go to the criticism. You know, while the airiness is there, I think you could put a little more power into it. This isn't a soft part as the song changes. Really get into it. Like just feel it. Just go into it, and then end with a compliment. Like kind of like go into it just like you did during the choruses. Once you get out of the chorus, you really have the energy there. Start bringing it in a little bit early, and like so when you hit it, it really hits hard. Yeah, that's. You know, the compliment.
It's a great example. That's a great example. I don't know about you, but I've gotten to a point where I don't even want a shit sandwich anymore. Like, I'm just like, just tell me. Like, you know, like sometimes I'll look at people and they'll start delivering it. I'm just like, dude, just like tell me what you don't like. Right. Like, or just tell me straight up. And like, that's all dependent on the relationship, right? Yeah. A lot of people still feel the need when they're working with us or whatever. And like, this is like the proper way to do it. Like we're telling you right now is just to give that shit sandwich. But if you worked with somebody for 5-10 years at this point, I mean, maybe you're still on that platform, but most likely you're probably to a point where you're like, all right, dude, just give me straight up. Do you like it or do you not? Right.
Well, I'm glad you bring that up because I think a large part of the shit sandwich isn't to soften the blow. I think when it's a new relationship, it's to show that you're paying attention.
Yes, that's
because in order to say something before and after, like the example I just said, it's, hey, I was listening to I was listening to the quality of your voice. I found something I liked out of it. I was listening to the chorus afterwards. You have the energy there. It's not just like, hey man, you missed the pre-chorus.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally
it shows,
agree.
hey, I was paying attention throughout the whole
There's
thing.
value in the shit sandwich.
Yeah. It verifies. And in a new relationship, that can be very important. Once it's established, I mean, I just saw earlier on, you know, I gave Brandon a comment. It's like, fuck off. We can do that because that's just part of what it is. But when you're starting a new one, it can be really important to know the language around it.
Absolutely.
That helps with giving criticism and all that.
I do want to back that up with what you just said too. There's a lot of value in the shit sandwich as well. Sean's out of here, man. He's taking off, man.
Backing it up.
Like I've gotten people into the studio before where they've recorded at other places and they go, hey man, this was like a great experience. Like I love how attentive you were, you know, and being able to work with me. Like in other places, it seems like people just didn't want to be there. Like when I do a take, they'd either be like, yeah, it sounds cool. Or be like, let's just do it again. You know, like and gives no reason behind it. Sometimes I will give no reason. I'll just be like, let's run it again. Let's just run it one more time, you know, just because I don't want to slow down the momentum of the session.
Especially if they're in the flow state.
Exactly.
Like, you've got it. Like, I just want more or keep going.
Do it again. Let's do it again, you know? So because like you need to know when to deliver a shit sandwich and maybe when to not. But as I was illustrating too, is like there's value in there because people know that you're paying attention, right? And that's really important. It kind of goes in line almost with like the compliment thing is like giving somebody your attention is almost a compliment in a way these days, which is kind of a little strange to think about, but like, I mean, we are pulled in all different directions. So just giving somebody the time of day, like is just like, there's a lot of value in that.
How can you use this as an artist to help get better results and further what you're doing? A quick example that pops off English hard. A quick example that pops off of the top of my head is if you're doing a sound check and the front of house engineer has your vocal sounding really nice, but the piano is completely buried. You can say, hey man, I love the way you got the vocal down. You nailed it. I really appreciate you having like some saturation on there. I can hear it out there. The piano is a really important part of the song, and it kind of emphasizes that as well. So if you could bring that up a little bit so that it sits on top of the drums that you've got pumping nicely, because I really want the whole thing to kind of push together. Yeah. To communicate your wants through music versus like, man, the piano sounds like shit, turn it up. Yeah. You know, that's not going to get you the results you want throughout the whole evening. Maybe for that one particular song, but throughout the whole evening, you want to have that relationship. Or if you have a band opening for you or you're conversing with a band afterwards, and they're like, yeah, man, we really liked it. What'd you think of our set? You can say like, man, like, yeah, it was awesome. The first song you started off with had a lot of energy. You really kicked it up off the bat. I think maybe you could shout out the venue a little bit more because like people like you had really good attention there, but like I really want to come back here and play again with you. Because afterwards everyone was coming up and like the energy was there and you really set up greatly for us.
Yeah.
But I think that's really, if you've set up the venue more, that could be, even take you next level, and just things like that. You can use it a lot in a live situation. When you're doing studio work and you need revisions done, this is the time to do it.
Oh man, is it ever?
This is the time to do it. Whenever talking to it, especially if you're doing remote mixing and mastering, or even if you're in the studio, just to communicate with the engineer, especially when you're just starting off. That's a great time to use it as well.
Yeah, especially in text, right? We're talking very much person to person, over text, it's a lot easier to get things twisted and murky with how you word things. So this is like when it really comes into play with, it's like over like reading it. Everybody has an internal monologue. I mean, people say that they don't, but I really believe that almost everybody, do you have an internal monologue?
So people do think differently. I've had this conversation with my girlfriend.
Yeah.
I think with words, my internal monologue is I will repeat, I'll fortify what I'm saying with words. Tiara thinks in images. So she thinks of scenes and like she'll recreate vividly different people or experiences and put them together. And those are kind of both ways that people think. And there's like a spectrum. People who think all the way in the middle of it and whatnot. But I'm curious to see where you're going with this.
So yeah, it's because how you read something really depends on your internal monologue, I feel. Especially like picking up on tone and how you deliver the tone almost to yourself. Like you're automatically taking what is written down into text and you're translating it to a way that you would either say it or you would imagine it being spoke to you. And this is a really delicate time because that can get twisted really quick. If you have a very short sentence and it's just like, I don't like the way this sounds, that's a direct attack, right? A lot of the time. But if you deliver it correctly, like, hey, I'm not feeling this, can we try it this way? Oh my God, so much better. And that's not even that's a half-faced shit sandwich, right?
We are going to do a full episode on framing.
Yeah,
because framing
that good. Yep.
Yeah, so powerful, and that's going to be further dove into at a later point. Stick around if you're curious about that and that's just But beyond from that, another really important thing that we need to talk about next that we have to start moving on is how to manage your time.
Yeah.
We only have so much time to record this podcast episode. We've been talking about we have to manage it. We've been talking about how to give and take criticism and how to compliment people for a long time, which is very, very important.
Yes, it is.
But we also need to kind of move on throughout the segments, and you have to do the same thing, especially when you're in the studio. You are paying for the time. How do you manage that properly? It's such an important skill to know of how to schedule it beforehand, make sure I'm prepared so I go in, I can just knock things out. We have a whole episode about preparing for the studio. Check that out.
Yep.
If you're going to perform live, you want to make sure you show up with plenty of time to set up. Are you going to have sound check beforehand or are you not? Is there a backline there? Are you not? Are you like, how quick is a changeover between it? Are you bringing too much? Maybe to the drummer, don't bring 5 toms for this show because I only got half an hour to go between them. It saves you a lot of time. How to manage time is very important. We have a whole series about live sound and how to do before, during, and after it, how to manage your time in each of these aspects of it. So if you really want to learn how to manage your time in certain situations, we have plenty of episodes out there that I highly recommend you go check out. I'll tag some of them in the show notes and in the description below. And go right ahead.
Yeah.
And if you want to manage your time, watch them at 1.5 times speed.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, that's also a great way to take in information and really kind of make it as fast as possible, especially with depending on how fast we actually talk. I'm sure we'd probably sound like some fucking chipmunks if you watch on 1.5 speed or 2 times speed. I think that'd be hilarious, but that's okay though because we're trying to give out the information quickly, and I also talk faster than what I can think. Back to the managing time thing. Another thing that you can kind of do is you can kind of implement different apps into your life. Like I know there's this app called Structure out there. I haven't used it quite yet, but I've been considering about subscribing to it recently. Okay. And basically what the app does is that you can tell it, hey, I want this to last this duration. It'll alert you when to move on from each task, right? And I think that could be super helpful in the workflow of what I do. And honestly, what we both do, right? And I know you use similar AI
tools. I use an AI calendar called Motion.
Yeah.
That you can say how long each task is going to last, what the importance of it is, and it'll automatically restructure it within your Google Calendar so you know what you have to do first. You put in how long it should take, and if it takes longer, it'll automatically bump things down. If it takes shorter, you approve it, and it'll automatically move things in its place. Yeah. Another website or app that Tiara uses to keep track of her time is if you're ever curious about how much time you spend on certain tasks. A lot of phones will tell you how much time you spend on each app on the phone. But outside of that, there's an app called Toggle that you can set certain tasks, different parameters on it. So you can say, oh, I spent 2 hours this week doing songwriting. I spent 4 hours this week.
Oh, that's great.
Practicing,
Yeah.
and you can set it up. And if you have a stream deck, which is a very important tool, we're going to talk about some hardware that's really useful to have
Yeah.
that isn't musical gear. If you have a stream deck, it actually ties in with Toggle, and you can set each thing as a button. So you can just click a button. Now it keeps track of that, and it automatically uploads it
That's great.
to the website.
That's great.
So Toggle is another great time management tracker app.
Yeah, I know Rescue Time is another really good one. I've used it in the past. I've since abandoned it because Apple does their own time management thing where they send you a report every week and you kind of see what apps were open at which time for how long. So I don't really need Rescue Time as much anymore because it's already built in. And I find like the Apple one's a little bit more precise and accurate just because it's on their platform.
Yeah.
So, you know, they have access to different things on the computer itself, but fantastic way to do it. I think, we often talk about apps a lot on here, and I want to say, like, don't rely on the apps for this. You need to have a degree of accountability when you do your time management. You need to be able to be the one in charge. You're the CEO, but you need to also be able to listen to your secretary at the same time, right? And be able to be lenient on your time, but also be very strict on your time. And what I'm trying to get at is be early, don't be late. I think that's like the biggest thing, right? Of like the majority of the time, like we were talking like the studio, be early to the studio, 10 minutes, 5 minutes early. Like,
Brandon's calling me out right now.
no, not at all. Not at all. No, not at all.
Continue. I'll tell a story afterwards.
I swear. I swear. Be early to the venue, 10 minutes, 15. You don't know what traffic looks like, especially where we are right now. Oh my God, it's a clusterfuck of construction. And yeah, I think that's just what I'm trying to say is like almost kind of like being I say it every episode, just be an adult about it. Yeah. Just be a little bit ahead of the game. But the apps are awesome to help guide you along the way. Sean, I did not put you on blast. I swear to God.
I'm putting myself on blast. This is why Brandon's a good friend. He is holding me accountable to this. So this morning we were meeting. No, hold on. Let me tell a story. Let me tell a story. Thank you. This morning, Brandon and I were meeting at this one location to kind of talk about, future plans and like check out this one location, like space and whatnot, see what worked, what wouldn't. He said, yeah, I'll be there between 8:15 and 8:30. I was like, cool. I'll be there around 8 o'clock so I can get some work done and meet you there. Fully intending on doing that. Well, I forgot something that I needed for today, this microphone right here, at a building that's nearby. I had to go run and grab that first before I met him there, which I left with plenty of time to do that.
Yeah.
But then I hit traffic.
Yeah.
And I showed up at 8:15, but Brandon showed up at 8:08.
I did.
So he practiced what he preached, and I was on time, but I was late.
It's almost built into me now. Just because there are so many unknowns. I think I've really learned it from when I worked at the radio station because I wanted to make sure I was on time to these events. Because if you're not, it looks really bad for the station. And I learned very quickly that traffic always plays a big role into it, especially when you're in Michigan because we're under construction for at least 75% of the year. I think the only time when construction stops is in maybe January or February if we're lucky, if there's a snowstorm. And
if the machines freeze, then you can't work.
Exactly. So yeah, it's just something that I kind of built into myself anyways. I always try to be as early as possible to avoid any situations that might be like the situation Sean and I were in this morning was very low stakes. There was no issue with either of us being late, honestly. Like we would have been there regardless. But
I love how you're defending yourself on it and the whole thing about it. It's it's just a funny story. It was literally a compliment saying Brandon does what he says.
I know.
He showed up early.
Well,
and you're like, well, I did this thing and because the radio station. I'm giving you a hard time. I'm
dressing up right now.
Yeah.
But there are those high stakes situations where if you're meeting with a record label rep or you're meeting with an AR or you're just going to the studio in general, you're paying for that time whether you're there or not, right? So you might as well be there on time or a little bit early so you can at least bring stuff in. Example, a couple weeks ago, I went to a studio out in Royal Oak. It's owned by this dude named Tim. Tim's awesome. Tim's great. It's Soundscape Studios out there. And we were there at 12 o'clock. I was there right when they got there, which was a miracle. I don't know how we ended up there at the same time because we're coming from two different places, but we ended up there at the same time, right on time. And, it takes a couple hours to set up. We were doing sound check. He was running the board. He was getting all the outboard gear dialed in. That's 2 hours, right? Yeah. And you have to be there and you have to be ready to go to sound check. So that way you can get on with recording. So just a little example right there. That's really important. Sean's going to kill me.
For sure. I'm not going to kill you.
You should
just maim or seriously injure. The last thing I want to cover on relational skills, I put this underneath a relational skill. This will tie into the next one, which is more financial, but really it's the skill of knowing how to sell.
Yeah. And knowing when to sell and when not to also.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Selling can be kind of thought of as a dirty word or really hard to do or kind of uncomfortable. And I understand that.
Yep. I get that.
I get all the time. Someone's like, I don't really know. Do I really want to put myself out there? Do I really want to sell my services? Do I really want to tell a bunch of people that I work with? I work on artist development and I can help coach you through the whole process of defining your brand and making sure you have a successful launch and all that.
Are you selling to me right
It's
now?
hard to do. Not you, them. It'd be kind of hard to do. And that's having a good framing around it and the right mindset behind selling. We can do a full episode on selling. Just
Oh man, a couple episodes, I bet.
a couple episodes.
Yeah.
We probably will. Oh, man. This whole episode is let's go and like tune in later.
Yeah.
This is the to be continued episode.
Dangling a lot of pieces of meat in front of you. Yeah.
But to sell and having a good mindset and knowing how to make it valuable, what you are selling so people want to buy it, that is such a skill in and of itself. There's a lot of books you can read, a lot of places you can start, but one that I highly recommend is a book called The Go-Giver.
Great book.
Really, really good book. And it's more about positioning trust within whoever you're working with before you even pitch them the idea of the sell. It's so, so important. And there's a whole series behind it, like Go-Giver, the Go Influencer, the Go Everything.
Yeah, they have multiple. Yep.
Yeah. So that's where I would recommend. Plus it's a parable. So it's a story.
Yes.
It's
yes.
very,
it's not
very
gonna
easy
bore
to
you
read.
to sleep.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Dude, I'm so glad you brought that up because I feel like How to Win Friends and Influence People and the Go-Giver actually hold hands. Like they're very like closely tied. And because like one is like how to relate to people, how to be friends with people. But then the next one is like how to like correctly sell, but also how to correctly just be a good person as well. How to give more than what the value actually is, right? They're just fantastic books. I think if you were going to go read one of them, you should just actually pick up both. And honestly, you can read one or the other first. It doesn't matter. The Go-Giver is extremely short. So I think it's like 200 pages or something like that. It might even be less than that. Yeah. It's a really quick listen on Audible as well. We're not sponsored by Audible, but we'd love to be. But yeah, so two fantastic books, but selling like you said is extremely important. You have to know when to sell. You have to be confident when you sell as well, and you can't be overly confident either, right? There's like some middle ground, I feel, that is the correct equation, right, for most things.
I'm going to say, to kind of add some separation with words, confidence and arrogance lie on the same line.
Yes.
And you can't be overly confident if it's confidence. But once it becomes arrogance, then it could be
better way to put it.
Could be off-putting.
Yeah, better way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a bunch, and a lot of these things, a lot of these books that we might mention in the future about selling and the more business aspects of it are focused towards businesses. And you are a business as a music maker trying to make a living doing what you love in the music industry. So be creative. How can you apply these kinds of selling techniques to, your fans? Because you're not just selling a product, you are selling yourself. You are selling your show, your time, your music, the story around you, the vibe that you put forth. There's a lot more that you're selling than a lot of businesses
Absolutely.
do. So it's very, very important to read these kinds of books. And even if you're not selling it for money, you are trying to sell it for time or for investment or just tons of different things. So we'll go into depth on sales later. In fact, I'll probably make Brandon work with me on an outline for that after this episode's done.
Damn it.
Don't sound so excited. And that's why I put it under relational, because it is, if you sell properly, it's about building trust. It's about having that relationship that it's like, hey, we both get something out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is a win-win-win.
Yes.
Not just I win, you lose, you win, I lose.
Which is what a lot of people think when you bring up sales, right?
Yes.
Is like, somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. Yeah.
Nope,
and that's how
there's
we're
a third
taught
option.
with Hollywood, right? That's how a lot of it's portrayed, is like one person wins, the other person loses, and sometimes loses big in Hollywood, right? And that's not the way that real sales should actually be.
No, exactly. Well said. But I could have easily have put down how to sell under the next part we're going to talk about, which we're finally transitioning on. We like to talk.
We do.
And that is the financial aspect of it. So, you? Financial?
Not for me. I mean, I'm down to talk about it, but a lot of people are probably like, ugh.
Yeah, well, we're going to change that. We're going to change that. You're going to be like, oh, fuck yeah. I'm going to sell myself and sell some shit. Yeah, because then I'm going to be able to do this for longer and have fun with it. And I'm going to take my creativity and apply it into all these situations and just have fun with it. Because if I'm not having fun, I'm not taking it seriously enough.
Good.
Fit it in. All right.
Good sales right there. That's a good sale right there. I'd buy it.
Yeah, but there's some skills and some understandings. I'm glad you would buy it. Give me $20 after this recording. So moving on to some business stuffs, some things that would be good to know, have a higher educational about, or just be aware that they exist. Starting off,
SEO.
Yep. What is that, Brandon?
Search engine optimization. That's actually something that I need to do. So I'm glad you brought it up. Thanks for exposing me. I appreciate it. pretty much what it is it depends. It all entails with how you're found on search engines, mainly Google. Google's the most popular search engine by far. So it all depends. It all deals with how you're brought up on Google itself, keywords, things like that.
I'm gonna let you finish, but
Please.
real quick question to kind of tie it into more, expand this as it's because Google is the big one. Is YouTube a search engine?
Yes, that is true.
Yeah, that's really important for content and music, and any social media is a search engine. Is Spotify a search engine?
Are you asking me? Is this a quiz? Because I'm nervous.
Answer's yes.
You think?
Oh yeah. Spotify is a search engine, and they implement it more and more as time goes on, especially with like the AI DJ feature, where we're gonna pull up some new things that relate to what you're thinking of. If you're on more playlists that relate to other songs that someone else listens to, it's gonna be like, hey, we're gonna pull up some new stuff you've never heard before. Here's your art, here's your band to somebody completely new. And it knows to pull it up because you optimize by being on other people's playlists. People who like those, who follow those artists also follow you. So when somebody else is getting pulled up by, hey, here's Spotify Weekly or Spotify Recommended, it's gonna pull your stuff up. Spotify is a search engine. People search for music on it. So when we say search engine optimization, it's not just, I want people to Google my band and find me. I want people to look me up on Instagram and find me. It relates much, much deeper than that.
Interesting. Never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
I don't use Spotify. I'm an Apple Music guy. So, which Apple Music is not a search engine. I promise you that. It is not.
Yeah, it is.
Man, it's terrible then. It's awful because it just seems like straight up just butt. I'm not even going to lie. I love Apple, but like, yeah, it's so basic. It's like the most basic search engine then. So, which is upsetting, but
it is one
because like, I mean, Spotify is a whole experience and it's a whole platform. Apple Music is more of a, it feels like an afterthought a lot of the time.
It's kind of like, correct me if I'm wrong, but Apple Music's kind of the next step of iTunes.
Pretty much.
Whereas Spotify is its own thing.
Yeah.
And iTunes was never meant to be what Spotify is.
Definitely. And you can tell.
Yeah.
You can definitely tell it was never meant to be this.
But it still is a search engine.
It is. It is.
Still is one.
Now is ChatGPT a search engine?
No. That is not a search engine, and don't use it like one. But we're getting off topic, so I'm gonna let you. Now that I've cut you off, continue on SEO, what it is, how important it is.
Basic overview is just basically determining like some keywords, key phrases, and how you're brought up on these search engines and how easily accessible you are. This relies on a lot of different metrics, especially depending on what platform you're on. You know, as Sean said, he went kind of the Spotify one. With Google, it depends on like your load times of your website, how many different places you are featured on the internet itself, specific keywords that are brought up, locations. I mean, it's a really hefty topic that I actually need to go back into my site and dive into more because my analytics have been really bad ever since switching over to WordPress. And that just means I need to actually focus on the SEO itself and really start optimizing what I can do. And I mean, did I kind of cover it in a nutshell? Because like it is more complex than that. But
well, here's the power of it. If someone searches in your band name and you pop up on the top, be it Google, YouTube, Spotify, whatever, that's good. You know, but if someone types you in, you show up. That's important. That's not SEO optimization. Now, if someone types in UK punk band and you pop up, well, that's search engine optimization. Because out of all the other UK punk bands, you're at the top or near the top. That those keywords being tied to you and showcasing you at the forefront, that is huge. Way bigger than looking up your specific name. Because now people who look up like those kind of keywords who aren't aware of you can now find you because you've done interviews with different blogs or performed on different radio stations or were showcased or promoted in this magazine. So now the search engine is like Google is like, oh, this person exists all over the place and has these keywords in all those other articles. So when someone searches good new UK punk band, they're going to show you.
Yeah, because Google's like, I bet that they're looking for this band.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're betting on you looking for that specific thing.
Now, that can take a long time and take a lot of work.
Yes, it can.
But man, is it powerful when you do it.
Yep.
So kind of like if somebody typed in new folk artist on Spotify, they're going to show up playlists of new folk artists, and they're going to start showing artists and songs below it. And if you are really good at tying yourself into it, being in a bunch of these different playlists, having a strong fan base, being shared across Spotify, you as an artist and your songs or your playlist might show up towards the top. So people who aren't even aware of you, but know they like folk and are looking for new artists, Now you're there.
Yeah.
That is where SEO, search engine optimization, comes into play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like Sean was saying, this is like a lifetime of optimization going on, because you have to be in so many different places at once, and that takes a while to kind of build up that reputation, the bank, and just getting content out there in general. So it's not an overnight thing, but you should start being aware and cognizant of maybe optimizing your capabilities online, especially if you have your website. I mean, the websites themselves, like, I'm more familiar with that. It ties into so much with Google, itself. I keep saying Google because that's, I mean, does anybody use Bing?
It's the search engine.
Yeah. I mean, seriously. So, man, I don't know. I just lost my train of thought.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a big topic. Once again, stick around.
It
to be
is.
continued, potentially.
It's a boring topic too,
it's
but
not.
it's so important though.
There's not boring at all. There's so many fun ways you can try to,
I hear that. I'm just like,
I'm so excited about it though. I'm talking to like 2 miles, 25 miles per hour, 30 miles per hour.
and you're
20
gonna
miles
do
per
that. You're
hour.
gonna do that episode.
Okay.
Maybe you'll make me excited about
I'll
it.
forefront it. That's my goal.
Maybe I'll get excited about it.
That's my goal. I'll be to try to convince Brandon to be excited about this.
'Cause I don't want to do it.
Another skill aside from SEO kind of goes into SEO, but it's a lot broader than that, and that's just kind of knowing what marketing is. Once again, really broad term. We're not covering the whole thing today, but just start thinking about it, because everything you do, marketing is the term of making people who aren't aware of what you are selling, whatever it may be, making them aware. That's what marketing is. Man, I'm trying to think of, there's a story that eloquently puts it. I'm going to look it up and try to find it. And in that meantime, I'm going to have Brandon talk about marketing a little bit.
Marketing is interesting because there are a lot of different avenues you can kind of approach it in. I mean, being that free versus paid, and depending on how you want to tackle it, you could spend a lot of money on paid advertisement, but that would not necessarily mean you're going to get anywhere. Like each of these platforms that you end up marketing on are complex in their own ways, and it's really set by how these companies want to make you work for that marketing dollar, right? You kind of have to learn. I hate using the algorithm as an excuse, but you do have to learn how the site works itself. So I'm not going to use algorithm as that example, but it is kind of an algorithm, and you play by the rules of whatever platform you're using. And like I said, you can spend a lot of money going down this route. Now, there are free ways to market though as well. So you have these platforms themselves. Now,
what's your favorite thing?
Content marketing.
I was opportunity cost.
Opportunity cost. I mean, that's all,
because you're always paying with something.
Because you're always paying with something, so you can pay in time, right, instead of paying with money. So that takes down the financial aspect of it, and you can do a lot of free stuff like free content marketing, or just in general, just being entertaining too. Like TikTok's pretty well set up for that. So there are multiple different ways you can kind of go about it. We're not going to go down every avenue today because there's a lot to cover. I mean, you can have a whole podcast about marketing itself, which they exist. So
plenty of them.
Yeah. I don't have any off the top of my head. I haven't checked any out personally, so I can't recommend anything. But maybe that'll be my homework. Maybe I'll go out and look for some marketing stuff. But I do know for a fact though. I want to give a shout out to the Six Figure Home Studio, or the Six Figure Creative, Brian Hood over there. He's a very big marketing guy. Like, he's a very big marketing mind, and he has a lot of good stuff on that channel, on that podcast. So there you go. There's a recommendation for you right there. So, and it all ties into what we're kind of doing too, as a creative. So even if you're a videographer watching or a photographer, he'll be able to set you up with some good ideas.
For sure. So here's a story that I alluded to earlier. So if the circus is coming to town and you paint a sign saying circus coming to the showground Saturday, that's advertising. If you put the sign on the back of an elephant and walk it into town, that's promotion. If the elephant walks through the mayor's flower bed and a local newspaper writes a story about it, that's publicity. And if you get the mayor to laugh about it, that's public relations. If the town's citizens go to the circus, you show them the many entertaining booths, explain how much fun they'll have spending money at the booths, answer their questions, and ultimately they spend a lot at the circus, that's sales. And if you planned the whole thing, that's marketing.
That's great.
Yeah.
Go back and re-listen to that.
It takes a lot.
That's fantastic, because I know I'm going to go back and re-listen to that.
It's a great, it doesn't give me the quote on who started it or who said it eventually, but it's a popular analogy of what sales is.
It's a great way to break it down.
Yeah, it helps break it down how much actually goes into it, because a lot goes into it, and it's a lot of smaller portions to it. But as a whole, knowing these individual skills, knowing what your focus is and how to package it all together and plan it plan it in advance so that you have a strategy going into what you're doing, a strategy going into your tour, a strategy going into your album, into your EPs, into your single, a strategy going into, your merch, however, whatever it is, that's marketing. And it all comes together. So
that's great.
Yeah, have some fun, do some research, think about elephants.
Elephants are fun too. I like elephants.
Next kind of thing, a good financial skill. What is? No, my bad. Another good business skill to have is just knowing how to be consistent. Be it with your brand, your look, your language, your sound, anything that you are doing, how to make your fashion amplify your music, amplify your merch, amplify your social media, amplify anything you do, having it all tied together and making one solid push so that people know exactly what it's about. That's a really good business skill to have. Yeah. And while you may think that's not necessarily a business skill, it's definitely a business skill because it helps showcase what you are. It helps marketing become a lot easier. Yeah. And there's plenty of bands who do this phenomenally. Just to name a few, 21 Pilots. If you look up Blurry Face or Scaled and Icy or any of their other albums, they have specific color schemes, specific looks on every single album. Who else does this? Taylor Swift. Damn it. Every single era is completely different. She does a phenomenal job with it. Yep. And there's a lot more artists that do this out there. Look at your favorite artist. Odds are, if they've been around a while, they have different eras. If you look up images from specific albums, they probably have certain fashion
that's true
that are specific towards that album. Or if they were on social media at that time, they have certain posts, maybe certain kinds of lighting, certain kinds of photography filters that amplify that kind of sound. So yeah, and being able to identify and be consistent, that is a huge business skill.
Yeah, something I want to add on to that with being consistent is being able to be consistent with your accounting and your receipts and like how you manage both of those things, how you manage your marketing dollars and your overall budget itself. And also how to manage your time, right? Being consistent with that. And then, oh man, I had a good one too that I wanted to say and I totally just forgot it. That's such a bummer.
Well, you can lead into any of the next one, which is kind of like money management skills, being consistent and keeping track of your inventory. Yep. After every show, keep track of what it is. If you have the skill and the systems to, make sure you see how much of each product sold, how much you have to order for the next show, you can estimate like, at this size show, we sell these specific shirts. So maybe we have this big one coming up. We're a little bit short. Let's order some new ones in. Having a checklist that you know how to run through before and after show will really help you be consistent with these. But keeping track of inventory, being consistent in like writing off your expenses. So you kept track of it. Like you said, have all of your receipts, have, how much you spent on food during the trip, on gas during the trip, on your instruments or repair or whatnot. If you keep track of that, talk to your CPA. These are specific things that you can potentially write off as expenses. Being consistent in going into your accounting software to put all this stuff in, whatever system is that works with you, being consistent with it is very, very important.
It is.
So there's no like, oh crap, well, we toured for these 2 months, but I forgot to put in all these expenses in one of the month. That's potentially free money or tax write-off money, or just, I don't know, you can get you in hot water if for whatever reason someone decides to audit you or whatever.
Right.
So
having
the receipts, having the bills, it's just a very important skill to have.
Not only that, that'll also save you time too, because then you don't have to go back through these accounts and your statements and be like, oh, I think this was for this. I think this was for this. It keeps things clean. So be consistent with whatever you're using to track whatever it is you're doing. I think that's like the best discipline I think you can have. And like, I think even starting with that, even in the beginning, like you have a go-to accounting software, this can almost snowball into momentum with being consistent with other things. You can kind of apply those same principles elsewhere along the way. So if you need somewhere to start there, start budgeting, start being consistent with your accounting. And then you'll notice that when you start to do these other things, you'll kind of have a framework and a workflow, and you'll be able to kind of remain consistent in other areas of your business.
Oh yeah. And having that information can just save you a lot of headache and time in the long run, because you can be like, oh, last tour we kept track of it, like these were all of our expenses for the whole tour, so I'm going to make sure I budget that into this next tour, or last tour we sold this much merch, I think we can change it up and sell maybe more this time, but this is at least the minimum we have to order. We don't want to overstock, so we're stuck with a bunch of shirts or vinyl or whatever afterwards. Having these metrics, these analytics are very, very important. There's a reason why any platform you go to, I mean, if you're posting on Instagram, they've got Instagram analytics. If you're posting on YouTube, they got YouTube analytics. Spotify analytics.
Website, Google Analytics.
Yeah. We keep track of, well, for what we're doing, we see all the numbers and we keep track of it because it's really important for us to do in order to make sure we're giving good stuff out. We know what works, what doesn't, and we can put more out more effectively in the future. Same thing applies for everything you do with your music. And also that's a really good skill, kind of going back to real quick. I'm going to jump way back up to 24. Some good maintenance skills, not really that technical, but a good skill is being in the mindset of, I'm going to track my analytics of my Spotify, my album release. So I know which song performs the best. Maybe that's going to be my opener at the next show. So I can grab people's attention right away. Or, oh, this song is underperforming. So how can I kind of change that up? Why is it underperforming? Maybe my fan base doesn't vibe with it as well as the other songs. Well, okay, cool. I won't write music like that moving forward. Being consistent in what you look at, how we do. There's a saying that how we do one thing is how we do everything. So if you are consistent and careful and keeping track of everything you're doing with your money, with your business, financially, that will bleed into a lot of other things that you're doing. And it's just very, very helpful and beneficial to have at least a basic idea of what is going on behind the scenes. And we live in an information age. It is very hard to not be able to find it if you're looking for it.
True.
So
True.
That's the end of my rant.
You took what I was going to say was analytics, and you have to be consistent with those, right? Because you have to be willing to, you have to be able to see trends, and you have to be able to see where your money is going, where your time is going, and what return that you're getting on that. And if it's even working in the first place, because then you're going to have to pivot off of that. And remaining consistent in your analytics, like Sean was just saying, just kind of like emphasize his point. You have to be consistent with looking at them every day, being able to dissect them accurately and correctly, and seeing how people respond to what you're doing, right? So really important part of it. Yeah, be able to keep track of the ingredients and keep cooking. It's all very, very, very important. Speaking my language. Man, there's so much I want to talk about. There's so many different ideas we can go into further. We already laid out 10 more episodes we're going to talk about in the future that if any of them interested you, subscribe, follow, stick around, because they'll definitely be coming out in the future. I hope you're excited as I am to talk about it, but that kind of wraps it up. Yes, it does. Today, the oven timer went off. The dish is cooked. Yeah. We are done. It's been served. So I appreciate you digging in with us, dining in with us. Yes. And listening to me struggle over words this whole time. But if this is your first time watching, thank you for watching throughout the whole thing. Thank you. Thank you. Yep. I really, really appreciate it. Please follow like everything that everyone tells you to do at the end of every video. If there's any musician friends that you have that could benefit from this knowledge, from this information that we've told you, please send them along this way as well, because it would be very beneficial to us and hopefully it helps them as well. And aside from that, I'm really excited to kind of cook up some next episodes moving forward and get episode 2 going on. Me too. Let us know what you think about the setup. Yes, please let us know about the setup. Leave us a message saying Brandon did a great job on the lights. Or say that Brandon sucked at doing the lights. Be better. Don't lie. Don't lie. But if you do, give me a shit sandwich like we talked about. Very true. That's your homework. Practice on us. Give us a shit sandwich. Yes, please. You write it in the comments below and I will let you know how you did. I'll let you know if I cried. And with that said, thank you for cooking with us. Bon appetit.